Let's get started because I'm really ready to yell at these people.
Well, it was a great interview yesterday, right?
It was.
My mom called me. Jimmy's on Tucker. Jimmy's on Tucker.
Does your mom like Jimmy Dore?
She likes Tucker, and she knows that we're Jimmy Dore people and stuff. And
because Jimmy Dore appeals to, he's like us. He appeals to some people on the right, even though they don't agree with his ideology. They're like, oh, I respect what you're saying because at least you tell the truth. That's the thing. That's what we get. And that's what people are afraid of because they're saying, oh, you're siding with fascists. No. I'm siding with people who are confused and who want to find a new direction, who are politically homeless. And if somebody is ever like, hey, Fiorella, join my team and we're going to kill black people and brown people, I'm going to be like, sorry, that doesn't work for me. These people that are saying that Jimmy Dore's over there promoting Tucker's right-wing ideology clearly did not watch the video at all, right? The topic was censorship. Oh, but why didn't he bring up Medicare for all? Because the topic is fucking censorship. Not everybody's number one issue is Medicare for all. And I mean, for me, it's one of my top 3 issues. Maybe, I would say top 3, top 4, definitely. I think it's one of the reason why it's because it should be a non-issue. We should already have it. And when these progressives make these attacks, like, why didn't he bring up Medicare for all if he's pushing force the vote, it's like, well, this is not what the topic at hand is. You're gaslighting here. You know what you're doing. Like, this is not what we're supposed to be talking about. But further, try to get Medicare for all. Try to get a Green New Deal. Try to get anything when you are being labeled a domestic terrorist and when you don't have communication with people. I want to see you guys try, because all the people screaming about this, number one, they're not organizers. Number two, even if they are, they think that organizing is just having a little club and talking about it and doing nothing. So again, try organizing when you are living in a fascist state.
Yeah. I mean, by the way, white supremacists, they were talking about that. There were people of color there on the Capitol. I'm not saying the majority of were.
Of course, that doesn't mean that they can't be part of that ideology, though. Because
what's that?
Of the right-wing extremist ideology. That doesn't mean that just because they're people of color doesn't mean they can't be part of that ideology.
Yeah, but they were saying white supremacy.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that they can't be a part. There are people that follow that. Like Tina, what's her name? Tequila. What's her name? Tila Tequila. She was doing the whole Nazi thing for a while. Yeah, she was definitely a white supremacist, even though she was Asian and brown. There are some of these things that happen. Wow. But I think what you mean is there was definitely diversity. There wasn't obviously the majority of people were white, but there was definitely some sort of diversity. But I think that's beside the point. I think what I'm saying is, even though there's a group of people that are militant and that actually have this ideology that they want to take control, that they want to bring the Constitution back, and they want to, they want to do all these things, that they follow QAnon. A lot of the people outside of the steps and what you saw were there for actually Stop the Steal, and they didn't plan on any of that happening. This was organized, but I don't think it was just organized. It wasn't organized by grassroots people and this just went wrong. I don't agree with that either. I think it was organized. The specific attack was organized by government officials too. And there's no way that they would have gotten away with that had it not been. Right? We're going to be seeing more and more of this. Winnie Webb talked about it a little bit, and we're going to talk about it more because this story has so many layers, fam. There's so many layers.
It's crazy when I saw these videos that we're going to go into and all that stuff eventually. But let's get started. Let's start with the Jimmy Dore, Tucker Carlson interview. Yeah. It was pretty good. My mom loved it. She was like, I can't believe it. Jimmy's on point and stuff like this. Like we talked about. It's not just about, the overall different ideologies. It's about certain things we have in common. And that is get rid of the censorship, stop it right now. Freedom of speech is one of the most important things. It's how we obtained Medicare for all and those other policies. Let's take a look at Tucker, Schmucker, and Jimmy Dore.
Opposite end from Donald Trump, but his views are still hated by a lot of the people in charge. So Jimmy Dore, how does this make you feel?
Well, it makes me feel really uncomfortable that this new censorship push is coming from the left. Just like I warned the left when they were pushing evidence-free conspiracy theories called Russiagate and McCarthy smearing all their political enemies, that, of course, whenever you do McCarthy smearing or Russiagating or things like that, you're propping up the surveillance state, you're propping up the establishment, and they're going to come back to bite you. And that's exactly what happened with Bernie Sanders. He got caught up with doing Russiagate, and, of course, they smashed his campaign by Russiagating him, saying that Russia was supporting him. Exactly exactly. So this scares me because it seems like on the left, they can I just tell you, the Capitol riot did not happen because we didn't have enough censorship. That is a ridiculous idea. Okay. No, Silicon Valley has turned into an extension of the Democratic Party. Glenn Greenwald just experienced that, right? I mean, what is going on right now is crazy. So just freedom of speech is the first in the Bill of Rights. Popular speech doesn't need protecting. It's unpopular speech that needs protecting. That's why it's first. The war on terror was already used to take away our free speech rights, to take away our right of protection from invasive searches from the government. We live in a surveillance state, and now they're going to use this even more. Joe Biden has already said he's going to use this. They're using it as a domestic terrorism threat. And let me just tell you something. They never sent. We know who gets censored. People who are pro-war never get censored. People who tell the truth about war get censored. That's why I'm being censored. That's why my channel gets throttled. That's why my so this is. I just lost 4,000 Twitter followers for no reason. So I don't understand how the left has to keep relearning this over and over and over. And you know, the first person to be deplatformed was WikiLeaks and Julian Assange. And this would be a great way for Donald Trump to stick the thumb back in the eye of these people, is to pardon Julian Assange. If he knows what's good for freedom of speech and freedom of the press, he should take this moment and pardon Julian Assange.
I didn't used to think that, and I totally agree with it, partly because you convinced me through the force of your argument. I think that's absolutely right. So I hope you will come back and... Yeah, please.
Can I just say, Tucker, this all started with the failure of neoliberalism. Why did Donald Trump get elected? So they couldn't ever come to terms with why he got elected. So it was corporate lefty journalists who pressured social media outlets to start censoring people who weren't adhering to this official narrative. And that's what's going on here. And that's what's scary. Neoliberalism is a failed ideology. And that's why they're now using censorship to control the narrative, because they can't back it up.
And I hope you made a really evocative point.
Oh, you should have played that out.
Oh, it's
which
fine.
we don't have time to explore. I hope you'll come back and explain sometime why people who are against pointless wars get censored, not those who are for them. No one will ever censor Bill Kristol. And anyway, I hope you'll come back on that topic. Jimmy Dore, great to see you. Thank you.
Right. So as you can see, he does different topics. Pasta, what was your reaction to that?
I put down interesting points to take out of this, of course, and I'm saying the first one is that and I like to have a little quick discussion about this. And when he says that neoliberalism is a failed policy and is responsible for Donald Trump, right? Okay.
We say this all the time on the show.
We talk about let's talk about real quick what about exactly neoliberalism is, because I think it really is a kind of like an oxymoron, because it promotes the fair market, it promotes privatization of business, taking away stuff from the government, but yet it has a political agenda, which is about racial and social justice, but the economic policies of austerity and whatnot goes exactly against the racial policies that they try to promote.
Right.
In other words, when you have a strong economic private sector and you take away power from the government and put it into the hands of corporation, that's going to only hurt people of color more than anything else. You know what I'm saying? It's going to put people into poverty. It's going to put people into jail. So, I mean, the fact that we're talking about, we have to realize that's what led to Donald Trump. And what did we do? We turned right back around and put the same people back in charge.
Exactly.
Well, we didn't. They did.
They did, yeah. Yep. And that's the reason literally that Donald Trump was elected over Hillary Clinton is because under the Bill Clinton's presidency and then under Obama's presidency, they failed working class people across the board. But the white working class that was normally democratic back a few decades ago shifted and started going to the right, because the right, not that they were helping them either, but Donald Trump came in with this populist sort of persona, even though it's not necessarily true. He told people that he was going to drain the swamp. He told people he was going to bring jobs back to America. They saw their jobs getting outsourced to other countries through TPP and NAFTA. That literally hurt so many people, farmers, everybody that relied on the working class, working in factories, all of these people. They developed this hatred for the Democratic Party because the Democratic Party became the party of elitist intellectuals.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can see the remnants of that in the progressive elitist, the boutique left that literally echoes the same message, just with more woke language. And that's what Jimmy Dore is talking about here. These people that how is the left doing this? Well, that's because they are basically going to be the new wave of these Democrats.
Yeah. Listen, at the core of neoliberalism is austerity. Austerity is pitted against poor people picking up the weight and paying all the debts off so the elites can just go run rampant and free. So it's really a type of political ideology that contradicts itself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It says, oh, we're for racial justice, we're for LGBT
Only by
rights
symbolism.
and stuff. By symbolism, because financially you're going to put them, you're going to put the vice grip around their neck, and it doesn't make a difference whether you're gay, straight, or whatever. We need resources for us to survive, to have a peaceful, happy life and stuff. If 80% of Americans across the board are living paycheck to paycheck, they're going to be stressed at each other's throat, and that's how the elites maintain their problem. I also want to talk about the fact, Johnny, do you have anything to say about that? Okay, keep going. Okay, now I also want to talk about the fact that not only did they talk about Donald Trump needing to pardon Julian Assange, but he also gets Tucker to admit that he was wrong about this before by the force of Jimmy's argument. Now, this is another second time we've seen a person like Sarah Palin, a person like Tucker Carlson is going, you know what? We were wrong about this shit. We were wrong about that. And I think that's big, because when people can say, you know, I once felt this way and I was wrong about that, but now I got my head out of my ass. I saw the evidence. I saw what's going on. The same people who were trying to suppress Julian Assange's voice, they're trying to take away our voice, and we need to let him go. So I think that is huge. Remember when we talked about the whole thing when Donald Trump goes, you know, I think the troops love me. The generals, they don't like me because they're in these senseless wars, these endless wars in the military-industrial complex. Wants to go crazy, and the soldiers shouldn't do that. We saw Trump people, now whether he did it or not pulled the cord like we said, but he's still bombing. He's still going crazy. The drones are still dropping bombs. Yemen is still under siege. He's still going by what Bibi Netanyahu wants to do and back in the Syrian bombing. However, the rhetoric means something, because then you see a Trump supporter going, Trump's trying to end all these wars and stuff like that. So if this is the mentality going forward, we have something to work on, don't we? We have something to work with, fam. No?
Yeah, and like you said, this is very important that Tucker and Sarah Palin, look, I hated Sarah Palin. I mean, I dislike that woman so much. She was just awful to me. She was so ignorant, and so all of these things. Tucker too, when he starts talking about immigration, I can't stand it, right? But it is a progress when you have somebody admit that they were wrong. And we have people that have commented on our videos that say, look, I voted for Trump in 2016. Now I don't know what to do. Like, I'm lost, blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, hey, I think, you know, I don't agree with everything you say, but I think we need to come together. Yes, these oligarchs are really, really going after us. We're all getting screwed. I mean, that is progress. And it's also dangerous. This is why these neo-progressives, boutique lefts, rad libs, whatever you want to call them, and the liberals, and also people of the Republican establishment, the Meghan McCains and such, they don't want people to see this. They're going to frame this like Jimmy Dore is pretty much perpetuating a right-wing ideology, a really Trumpian ideology now, because it's not even the same thing anymore. But they're going to do that because this is uniting people. This is a unifying moment where people are realizing they're getting screwed by the system. And who's realizing that? Well, a lot of the working class, some of the middle class. They're realizing, like, we're all fucked, right? And so that is very dangerous, because when you look in history at who unified people, all of them end up dead. Like, I'm not even joking when I say that. Like, it is very difficult to get to say these things without getting smeared. So you're going to see a lot of smears, as you already have, by all the people, for all the people who are telling the truth, who are actually trying to have nuance, who are trying to really see things for what they are, not ideology first, but truth first. Because that's what I've seen. I think I've come to the conclusion that some on the left that are more authoritarian say they want you to put the party first, or the ideology of whatever it is. Even if it's not Democrat, they'll say, oh, like, no, it's socialism is this. And if you don't do this, then you're not a comrade. And that's not how it works, because the truth is the guiding light for me. So if the truth is going to say you did something wrong, I'm sorry, that's what I'm going to say. I don't put party before the truth. And I think that's what Americans have gotten so used to, that they freak out when it doesn't happen.
Yeah. You know, and also too, just kind of piggybacking off of what you said about when he talks about immigration and whatnot, and what he's been awful when it comes to that stuff as far as how he kind of represents the people that are coming here and stuff. But I do have seen some type of movement when he has like the Anya Parampals on, that they start talking about the root of the migration that's coming here. And he said something that on one of the ones with Anya Parampal, he goes, I think it's fascinating that you come here and talk about that, because the elites are trying to create and continue a continuous cheap working class for the ruling class. Right. And that's why they're destabilizing those countries, so these people come in, work for pennies, and they're the ones who really take advantage of it. Yeah. So at least the fact that he's starting to point these things out, you know what I'm saying? And this right here saying I was wrong.
Because you are taking away work from the working class in America by bringing in cheap labor and by outsourcing it. You are doing that. It's not the fault of the immigrant. Yeah. It's not the fault. You need to stop blaming the immigrant, those of you on the right. Exactly. It's not their fault because we caused the fucking wars. Yeah. We destabilized their countries. And that's why they have to come to the United States, because what is the United States portrayed as in Hollywood? It's portrayed as the land of the free, the home of the brave. You can make anything happen if you work hard enough, if you can achieve the American dream. That is no longer the case for Americans. So even then, people still are fleeing countries that are far worse than ours. And that's what you have to put in perspective.
My mom's watching the show. She says, "Very good, but take it easy." My mom, she's loving the show right now and stuff, and because she's seeing a part of politics where people can start just talking the truth. And when you watch that mainstream media, the message, the sheepdogging. Wow, I was watching an independent media show beforehand, and it was like they were doing MSNBC stuff, and it goes, the difference between us is we do it for free. I said, so you hear what you're doing? You're sheepdogging for free. Orange man bad, we get it. Yeah. But there's more nuance to what's going on right now, and we can't let our freedom of speech be taken away from us. And the censorship has just been awful. It's been scary awful. Finally, let me end on this great point over here with the anti-war personalities. What he said at the very end, they're the ones who are getting censored. Mm-hmm. The people who are pro-war, like the Bill Cristols, they never get censored. And let me say this much, fam, not one of the progressive members of Congress, whether it be Rokfin, AOC, have been critical or said anything about Biden's pro-war candidate picks. I mean, these people are some of the scariest people. Mm-hmm. The Blinkens, the Powers, the Lloyds, the General Lloyds. I mean, these people are warmongers. Not one of them, fam, has said anything about these cabinet picks.
It's Obama administration all over again.
That's it.
Don't get it twisted. And Kamala Harris is going to be the headmaster of that. And I have to say, not only do they not talk about war, regime change, besides Tulsi Gabbard, none of them have really talked about, foreign policy in that aspect. They have not mentioned Julian Assange's name. They have refused to say anything about whistleblowers in a public sphere. This is why AOC doesn't come on Fox and talk about Julian Assange, because she's not going to do that. She's not going to talk to somebody like Tucker Carlson. I mean, this is not who they are. They want to stay in their little corner. But she can go on Rachel Maddow, and we're going to look at that in a minute. But this is why, because Jimmy going on Tucker and exposing a conservative audience, one of the most popular shows for conservative people, and talking about his view from a leftist perspective that censorship is wrong, that the riots didn't happen because we needed more censorship. He's absolutely right about that. More censorship wasn't going to stop that. It's capitalism, the failure of capitalism, and angry Americans that have been gaslit and told that they're all a bunch of liars and that they're all a bunch of lunatics. That's what was causing that. And the fact that he is going and talking and educating a Republican audience and saying, look, we're not all the same. I'm a leftist, and this is what I think, and I'm going to criticize the left that I should stand with me on this, because they're actually working and carrying water for the crypto fascism in this incoming administration, because they talk about fascism this and everybody's a fascist, but when there's a fascist right in their face, they don't even recognize it because it's cryptic. And so it's so important to note that, because talking about fascism and just labeling everything fascist without really understanding what it is damaging, because then when it really happens, you're not going to really see it for what it truly is.
Yeah. Fam? I'm 66% Southern Italian, so I can explain this. Benito Mussolini, who my family did not like, his basic definition of fascism is when the state merges with the corporations, pretty much taking it over. Yep. The Democratic Party has merged with big tech, has merged with the military.
And so has the Republican Party.
Well, I mean, the parts of it, they've already been part of it right now and stuff like that. But big tech has really merged with the they've merged with the establishment.
That's what I mean. They're both. It's
Let's
one.
be honest.
It's one big aisle.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So the establishment on both parties, Republican and Democrat, there are outliers of people who are more like, oh, they're a little bit, but they're still tied to the system, right? Because the system is a problem, and so it's those people that really stand to gain from all of this, that stand to gain from censoring you from what you can think, what you can read, what you can look at. It's the thought police, you guys. It is the thought police. It is Big Brother. And you can tell me that that's a right-wing talking point, because
I'm not gonna say
it's not at all a right-wing talking point in any way, shape, or form. It is the truth.
I know.
And V for Vendetta before we get there. And by the way, I have to thank again Jimmy Dore for saying pardon Julian Assange, especially at a time right now.
Yes.
Donald
4 days
Trump,
left, fam.
Donald Trump.
4 days left.
If you really want to do that,
You got 4 days.
do it. I don't think Trump is going to do it, because I still think he's a billionaire. After all, he's not going to put his life like that on the line.
Dias.
But
4 days.
If you really want to stick it to him, Trump, pardon Julian fucking
Right
Assange
there, baby.
right now.
There's the Assange bracelets. Love you action for Assange.
Steve, where's my bracelet? I never got a bracelet. I'm really upset
she said
right
take
now.
one for you, take one for Fee,
Oh,
but
you
I
never
took them
gave
both.
it to me. He took them both.
I took them both.
Anyway.
That's what I did. Listen, the only last thing I want to talk about, because we pretty much talk about the majority of progressives in Congress have not only spoken out against they haven't spoken out against censorship. They've actually cheered it on. They've encouraged it. They've encouraged protesting elections. It should get you thrown out of Congress or sanctioned. It's scary stuff. But the last thing I want to talk about, this is also when we look at what's going on the TV screen over there and you see a picture of Jimmy and Tucker, I call this the great merger as well. Because we have the great unmasking, we have the great whatever. This is the great merger. You're going to see more and more independent media get more on mainstream media and collaborating together, the ones that are allowed to. Mainstream media, as far as MSNBC and CNN, they'll never let the small voices going on, but you're seeing more stuff like this. You're going to see like Niko went on OAN and whatnot. You're going to see more of those smaller cable outlets are going to reach out to people online. We've been on RT and Crosstalk. You're going to see more of this right now. You know what I'm saying? Because people who just want to be citizen journalists like us, who grab a camera, get out there, build a little makeshift studio and do it, we're really telling the truth. We're getting into spots where they haven't been able to get into. We're getting followers that they never been able to have. We're not driven on marketing by our advertisers. That's what Rokfin's all about. Right. You know what I'm saying? So I'm calling this the great merger, and you're going to see more and more situations like this where the independent media, news media will kind of come on cable. They'll say their words, they'll dip in and they'll dip out and they'll do whatever. I'm just excited about that part and that element. Seeing Jimmy on Tucker, I think is awesome too as well. I mean, and what does AOC do? She goes on Rachel Maddow. But let me read some super chats real quick. We have 471 people over on the YouTubes.
Like, share, subscribe, hit the bell. You know what to do.
There she goes. Join.
Yeah.
This section is done. Oh, you put tweets?
Yeah,
I didn't see the tweets.
Yeah.
Let me wait on the super chats, fam.
Yeah. So the
sorry.
progressives have been reacting to Jimmy Dore. Of course, as usual. The usual boutique left, the Eon Higginses, the Emma Vigilance, the Anna Kasparians. So Emma Vigilant posted this tweet. She said, Tucker isn't a dummy. He knows that investing in a, quote, leftist who is driving a wedge in the left is good for his far-right agenda. It also helps that when all the leftist does is attack Democrats and ignore fascism. Perfect guess for his ends. And let's click on that, Johnny, because she gets some good responses.
Don't wake the sheep up the left.
Yeah, so let's look at what Misty said. She posted this of Emma a year ago, actually, a little more than a year ago. I don't understand the overfocus from the left on Carlson. Hannity and Ingram are way worse. Carlson actually has principled views on a few topics, a rarity for Fox. But when your money starts coming from MSNBC, you have to shift your perspective. Okay, over here, Dr. Cornel West appeared on Tucker Carlson's show, so he's probably a secret right-winger and obviously needs to be canceled. She was being sarcastic here.
What did you say about what did you say about when your money comes from where? Say that again. Nice.
MSNBC. So yeah, like the Majority Report is a subsidiary of MSNBC.
And if your money comes from there, then they are your masters. You need to speak their word and not what you want. You're no longer a truth teller. You took that cash and you dipped.
And Aaron Matei said, Jimmy called for pardoning Julian Assange on the network that Trump watches most. Meanwhile, other networks are either ignoring Assange's persecution or smearing him. And I'm on the left, and I don't see Jimmy driving a wedge. I see him getting unfairly attacked / accused. So Exactly. I mean, they keep saying that Jimmy Dore is dividing the left. He's not. Him and a lot of others like us are exposing them, and they don't like it because they're
They're
the real
sheep.
grifters.
Yeah, they are.
Their time's up. Like it's like you're now seeing, a lot of people are now seeing, holy crap, these people are fraudulent. And that's one of the pictures I had for later, but you can just use that one, Johnny. Misty quoted put a picture of Nomiki Konst.
Is it Nomiki or Nomiki?
It's Nomiki.
Whatever.
I don't know why.
Dude, I just want to kind of harp on the thing what you're saying as far as like the dividing the left. They're not dividing the left. They're getting pissed off that we're waking up the sheep. Some of them that are sleeping and saying, "Hey, dude, don't fall for this leftist bullshit ideology. Don't fall for our orange man bad. Think for yourself." We don't have to say that we love Donald Trump and stuff to fight against censorship and to say that what the Democrats are doing, what big tech is doing, is very, very bad. It's disgusting what they did. The censorship throughout has been awful. And Julian Assange is at the bottom of that rabbit hole. Yep. He's the what's the word I'm looking for? The top of the pyramid. That's the one. When you release that and you set that man free, so much in our society can thrive as far as freedom of speech and a free press. Because they're supposed to be the fourth estate, are they not, fam?
That's right, fam. And so Nomiki Konst, a lot of people, she's one of the people that criticized First Vote, criticized Jimmy Dore for turning to the right and all these things and bots and trolls. And there she is. Jackson Hinkle posted this tweet and Misty retweeted it. All the shit libs criticizing Jimmy Dore for going on Tucker Carlson tonight applauded this brave guest for going on a show not too long ago. And there she is. And she went on there twice, actually. One on to talk about healthcare and the other one to do that. So I wanted to show that because I wanted to show the hypocrisy of these people. And there's another tweet. Another tweet by over here.
This is on yours, the one you twisted? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay. So this is Emma subscribing to the smears on Julian Assange. In February 21st of 2017, she said, WikiLeaks may do some good work, but holy Lord, Assange is a creep. That's great journalism. And now everything makes sense.
Great journalism.
Everything makes sense now that as to why these people are like that. And like, of course, here's another picture of Nomiki where she actually sounds like a Republican. Like, I'm not even joking. Capitalism fights communism. Every dollar invested in Cuba is one invested in the liberation of Cuban people. Nomiki Konst. I mean, you know what? Like, you can have that belief, but to paint yourself as a progressive and say you're this radical leftist and a socialist and all this crap, and
capitalism fights communism.
A few years ago, I mean, I didn't go from being a Republican to being, I mean, if you've genuinely changed, I'm okay. Like, I'm okay with that. It just doesn't feel genuine. The free market here is
there it is.
Essentially what opening Cuba does, give citizens tools of empowerment. But wait, so you went from a free market capitalist to a freaking socialist in that short amount of time? I guess I could believe it if it was genuine, right? If there was no money involved.
The free market always talks about how goods and services are sold and traded. It never talks about how goods and services are produced and how they produce it. That's what communism goes at. It's like, okay, the people producing these goods and services are going to get a good portion of the money.
Nobody's saying,
where capitalism and crony capitalism says we can exploit whoever we want, and it's how we trade this stuff. It's ridiculous.
And nobody's saying that you have to embrace one single ideology. No, people are saying that something's got to give, right? I mean, in my personal view, obviously capitalism has no place, but in Americans' view, you can find a way to actually find a solution. And I think a lot of people say that socialism cancels capitalism. Well, there is a market in socialism. It's called market socialism, where you have small businesses, where you just don't have the corporations owning all of these things and have billionaires become trillionaires in a mass.
You don't have crony capitalism running wild.
There's
social safety nets too, so people live in a decent standard of life. They're not end up in homeless on the streets and stuff. And there's social programs that say, hey, we don't have to spend so much money over bombing other places and giving money to other countries, which are just going to be going filtered through the oligarchs' friends, and they're going to get that money in their pocket. We spend that money back at home on education, on health services. I mean, listen, we already have a quasi kind of socialist system.
We do.
But I really think, and this is something I told my mom about. Mom, you're saying it wrong. It's about socialism and communism. No, socialism, communism, capitalism. You want to get away from those mentalities. What we're fearful of is authoritarianism, because authoritarianism could come in the form of capitalism, because they buy up everything, through fascism when the corporation merge with the states. Authoritarianism could come through communism when one people is making control. But that's what we're fearful of. We have to have this kind of quasi mixture of hybrid of all these systems where the richest country in the world doesn't have homeless people living on the street, where the richest country in the world gives people Medicare and Medicaid and helps them out, especially when it comes to mental illness, where the richest country in the world has everybody has a job, has a decent standard of life. You know what I'm saying? And we've gotten away from that because you can't explain to me how capitalism doesn't turn into crony capitalism and it doesn't eat itself. So maybe it's not, we shouldn't say just capitalism's all awful and stuff, but we have to find a way, and we have to get away from demonizing the communism and the socialism argument. That's not what we're scared about. We're scared about authoritarianism.
Exactly. Authoritarianism can happen on the left or the right spectrum because of that's just the ideology. And Miki, of course, was also on Tucker with her as a climate change activist, and then as well as her, Cornel West was on, Brother Cornel. And I think that's wonderful because Brother Cornel explains things in a way that is so, it's so, I don't know. He has a way with words, right? He has a way of explaining things that can bring people together. And if he can go on Tucker Carlson and call him my friend Tucker, I don't understand what the problem with Jimmy Dore going, oh, but Cornel is great, blah, blah, blah. No, you have to be consistent. Don't be a hypocrite. Like, I want Cornel to go. I have no problem with people going on anywhere. But there's a reason why we don't get invited on CNN. There's a reason why we only get invited, the independent media only gets invited on right-wing channels like Fox or RT. I mean, CNN isn't going to invite me to talk about how horrible our regime change wars are. They're not going to invite me on to talk about Julian Assange. They're not going to invite me on to talk about any of the shit that I want to talk about. Election fraud.
I was going to say, could they invite me on to talk about elections? Will they invite me on to talk about elections? No,
they're not going to do it.